Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Pisces on September 7th, 2025. Welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. And yes, it is eclipse season. A wonderful eclipse season on the Virgo Pisces axis. Do hit the subscribe button below and turn on bell notifications to be updated when I film the solar eclipse video, which will be a full-on solar eclipse on September 21st. As you can imagine, this gap of time between September 7th and September 21st, 2025 is a highly transformative time for the collective. We have many tangible changes coming at both, a mental, emotional level, and then at a very physical level, right? With the Pisces Virgo axis. The eclipses, of course, are starting in Pisces, meaning that we have these transformations beginning at a very internal level, okay? Since the first of the eclipses are lunar and in Pisces, and when you combine together the lunar energy, the moon, lunar eclipse with the Neptune-ruled sign of Pisces, you get such an emotional focus. So I think that people's feelings are changing here, okay? If I'm getting into the intuitive messages that I feel with this eclipse period of time, feelings change, okay? We used to like someone, now we're kind of on the fence. Or we had someone at arm's length, now maybe we're kind of wanting to move closer. Or, we thought that this career or this industry was our lifelong passion, and now question marks are emerging about the viability of this over the long term. And, something that we shelved before or put on the back burner before can become front and center. So this can be also a very scrambling period of time. And I want to alert you all to the highly dominant mutable energy of this general time. So Saturn has moved back into Pisces on September 1st. Mercury has gone into Virgo on September 2nd. Of course, we have Uranus retrograding in Gemini also, right as this lunar eclipse starts in Pisces. And we have Venus following in Virgo as well later this month. So we are in a very mutable time. And this means that the course is not rigid. This means that the path that we have now is not maybe the most linear path. This also means that there can be backtracking or unexpected detours happening. So you may have to return back to a previous place to find your power. You may also have to embark some type of side quest here, or some type of sideline or seemingly sideline experience in order to resolve, or I would say unlock, maybe a gate or a door on the path that you feel is more linear. So some things are kind of locked up or barricaded here as well, and it requires us to get creative as to how we gain access to what really matters. And it's a wonderful period of time for the puzzle solver. It's also a wonderful period of time, I would say, for the psychologist or the person who takes a more psychological, or I would even say quantum psychological outlook on life, okay? We have obviously a focus on dreams here, right? As the sign of Pisces rules over dreams, it rules over romance, fantasy, also vision, actualization, the realization of something currently intangible. Okay, this is also, right, the collective 12th house, which deals with institutions. It deals with large groups of people, macroeconomy. So we have large changes coming about as a result of a change in the collective dream, a change in the collective fantasy, and yes, a change, I would say, in the collective idea about what it thinks it is. So basically what humanity has thought that it is, what humanity has set out to be, may take a detour here. All right, so there's also kind of this whiplash effect, I think, as well, from Saturn and Neptune having gone into Aries and then moving back into Pisces. And, a lot of people perhaps who are not super astrology focused may be caught off guard or blindsided during this time. In fact, the word blindsided is a major keyword that I got with this general period of time. And that kind of stretches out beyond just this lunar eclipse in Pisces, but the general September 2025 to March 2025 cycle can come with a blindsiding, an unexpected detour, an anomaly of sorts. And Saturn in Pisces this time is going to really have a more unimpeded effect, because the previous times that we had Saturn in Pisces, we also had Jupiter squaring it in Gemini. So it kind of offset the energy, and it made more of a confusing, sort of unrequited, unsure idea of what the energy was expressing itself as. But with this lunar eclipse in Pisces, okay, it's going to so directly activate Saturn in Pisces. Now we have Jupiter in Cancer, of course, so there's no square, from Gemini, only the opposition from that which is in Virgo right now. So we're going to get a very direct idea of what Saturn in Pisces has had to say ever since 2023 when it went in. I'll link below my Saturn in Pisces video for all signs, as this might be a great time also to revisit the meaning of that transit and to do a bit of reversion work or shadow work even about what 2023 through 2025 has meant, has caused, has brought about. And, for a lot of people, it's been a lot of confusing chaos. Okay. It's been a lot of, situations that people don't want to relive. And I think that there has been there's been a want to bring order to some of this chaos. There's been a want to understand what the future brings, but you can never predict what the result of chaos is. Okay, so here's a period of time where people want to really light things up, and they want to also get things off of their plate. They want to basically reduce chaos because there can also be a growth of it here as certain things are brought into order. As you begin to clean up a mess from the past, as a lot of people will be doing that here as well. You go through that cleansing process, and it's hard, as you do a detox, as you, cure cancer or cure some type of long-term disease, it oftentimes comes with a feeling of it getting worse before it gets better, right? Which could very much be what this Pisces lunar eclipse may be representing for some people. But at the same time, I feel that because of how late Saturn is in Pisces, obviously still at the anaretic degree of Saturn in Pisces, and of course the Sabian symbol of that keyword, the keyword of the Sabian symbol of anaretic Pisces being discernment, okay? I feel that people are very capable of discerning what is fact and fiction here, and I feel that people are also very capable of discerning what is healing versus what is damaging. And I do feel that actually a lot of people want to embrace more of a better track. They want to do better with their resources. They want to work smarter, not harder. They're really wanting a better life out of this time. But the difficulty here lies within the need to predict the outcome of chaos, or the need to understand who we are as a direct given outcome of all of these years. So people have perhaps too immovable, or I would say too immobile, an ideal or vision about how things need to be. And that runs contradictory to what the point of this time is, which is basically a pivot or an adaptation, okay? So there may need to be a release here at a very grand level of a preconceived kind of self-ideal, and perhaps a replacement of that with a real evolution, meaning here we can begin to release rigid ideas of self that are holding us back, and we can actually step out of that rigid disguise, I would call it. There's something about disguises here too. Careful about people being fake. It's a very strong time for lies and a very strong time for hidden agendas. It's a very strong time for any kind of deceit as well. So it's very easy to have people who are essentially in disguise here, or being something that they are not actually, out of fear or out of a need to cling to some type of external shell, right? Also, that's represented by Jupiter in Cancer. This could bring about actually a romance with being something that we're not, having this, shell persona, or having some kind of reputation, or external version that deflects the truth. Okay, so very easy to see a deflection of truth here. And we've talked a lot about this on Patreon, actually, in the September 2025 sign-by-sign readings. I'll link that below for you all. But this is also like a holdover from the Jupiter and Gemini period of time where we had a lot of like papering over of chasms. I would say that was sort of what I felt the Jupiter-Saturn squares in Pisces and Gemini that we had throughout 2024 were. It was like we had these deep recesses, or we had these major problems that we were like papering over with very pretty wallpaper, or if you can imagine like a very moldy house, like with beautiful brand new wallpaper in it, something like that. Or if you can imagine even like, I don't know, pitfalls papered over with very fragile paper, and it's like landmines almost. It's like careful where you step because you could like fall through this, or kind of like in attics where you have like rafters, like certain boards you can walk on and be fine, but you can't walk on all of it, otherwise you could like fall through. Okay, that was very Jupiter Saturn square to me, and there's a holdover of this now which has translated itself into it's not so much about the ground that we're walking on or about covering up external things. It's now very internalized, okay, with Jupiter in Cancer. Like now we're covering up ourselves, or we're wrapping ourselves in a certain kind of like pretty exterior, or in a mask even per se. And what this Pisces lunar eclipse is going to do, and I feel this to be quite a turning point, and also with the Virgo solar eclipse upcoming as well, it's going to ask us if we're really happy with that even, if we're really happy with that externalization, or do we need something that's a little bit more real? Or perhaps is this a past dream or a previous version of ourselves that we're relying on to externalize through, and it's not even who we are now? I feel like this Pisces lunar eclipse indicates that we've grown over time, and maybe we're a little bit wiser than that now. Maybe we're wiser than wearing a false front now. Maybe we don't need to cover our scars with makeup here. Okay, maybe we're wiser than that now. Or maybe it's not so deep anymore, at least. Or maybe aesthetics aside, it's not a psychological reason as to why we need certain front-facing infrastructure anymore. So this is also about true friendship, and this is about things which go back things which go past, the external sphere or the external shell. So who is part of your inner circle is a big question that September 2025 is asking, and who is or is not dominating that region. Okay. Also, who has access to your house? Okay. Who can get past your walls? Who has the key to this place? This may need to be reworked here, or considered at least, as I do see some people who are too secure. In essence, no one is allowed in their house and they're completely alone. Okay, there's a kind of like lonely at the top feeling with this as well, which in some cases can be good or quite like horrific as well. It depends on the person and the context. But this is also possible to have like too much access to, which is actually more likely, I would say. And I actually think that everybody pretty much might have someone or something accessing them that they don't need anymore. This could be through social media. This could be through contacts. This could be like communicating with an ex that you very well know deserves no place in your life. This can also be like blurred familial relationships, or, for example, accommodating family members who are very difficult to rest from having had to be around or something, but continuing to accommodate. It's like, regardless of what type of relationship is, it's basically like the accommodation of something that takes more than it gives. So the Pisces lunar eclipse, and then yes, also just this entire eclipse season, this month, you all, very, 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 very much deals with, I can't almost impress on you all enough how much it deals with, what is the status of reciprocity of the relationships in your life? Who gets access to you? And is that the right person? Does someone else in your life deserve it more? Why do you have feelings for certain people as well? It's a very important time if you have any type of romance in your life, okay? Romance is a big, big thing here, because I question very much with these current transits that we have, why we romanticize anything or anybody. Okay, so like anybody that you have like a crush on, or anybody that has a crush on you, any type of romantic feelings. But then also, it's not just that, it's also like, I really want that for myself, or I really want that job, or that position, or that power, or that location. Anything that you're drawn to here that you kind of wish you could get closer to, like a crush on anything or anybody. I want to get closer to this person, or I wish that things would advance in this relationship. Really, really, really get into that. And what would I say? It's almost like take apart that machine and put it back together for yourself. I mean, this is the best thing that I can tell you guys with this eclipse season. You know how sometimes in order to find something like in a messy drawer, you've got to take everything out and put everything back in, or to clean a messy house, you've almost got to like remove everything and do it all. Like, this is what we have to do for anything that we're drawn to. Like, really take it apart. Like, when did I start having these feelings? What has brought this about? Is this about superficial, attraction? Is this about this person providing me something that I've never had before with anyone else? And you'll kind of be very surprised. It's a great time for this is interpreted differently by different people, but by like the questioning energy. Okay. Actually, it's not a bad time for a bit of devil's advocate here. Why do I want to be with this person? Why do I want this to advance? Is there any chance that this has something to do with like a psychological wound that I'm trying to perhaps paper over, ouch, with something pretty seeming to me? Is in any way, am I operating through any form of like desperation, lack, or poverty consciousness here? Because what this time also wants to do, you all, is it wants to refill that which is empty. So, the Pisces energy, right? Saturn in Pisces, Neptune moving back to Pisces, Pisces lunar eclipse, nodal axis on Pisces and Virgo. It's like, oh, I've lacked a meaningful relationship for such a long time. I need someone to like fill this void now. Or, I've been out of resources for such a long time and I need these accounts to be refilled now. And you begin to ask yourself also during this time, like, well, would I accept just anyone to fill this void? Would I accept money from just any source to fill this bank account as long as the account was filled? Okay. And here we have a problem. Okay. Here we have a question of ethics. Here we have a question of, who is this person really? Do you know them well enough? You also can see that you get to know people past a certain point here and they're not going to be like appropriate for your life. That's a very common thing I've been seeing here, and it's hard. It's hard for people to be like, oh, I thought that person was the one. And as it turns out, they have certain like opinions or certain also personality aspects that are absolutely antithetical to my first impression of them. Or, someone, even like years ago at this point in time could have presented as like, I don't know, like a knight in shining armor, or they could have presented as, exactly what is right for you. But like now, after getting to know them for a while, you can see like actually a lot of that was just almost conversational in nature and not really a representation of who people really were. And then it can like even go to like a really scary place here where it's like, wow, you mean to tell me that this person actually is a player, or this person actually, was not in any way on the same wavelength as I was, or something has changed since then. So like also people change here as well. So like that's another thing. Like it's like, okay, maybe like back in 2023, some of this stuff was like on the same page, but now here in 2025, we might be like leaning into the way things were back then, but like actually no, like perhaps we're still the same, but like this other person has completely like deviated into a totally like different energetic frequency, but they still like are kind of like anchored down to you. So we definitely question bonds here and connecting points. And, it's kind of like, it all kind of comes back to also what we choose to believe about people. That's a big thing here with this Pisces lunar eclipse. What I've chosen to believe about that person based on what? Question mark. What they told me. Okay. Words. Behavior that I observed over a period of time. You might look into that one a little bit and ask yourself if the behavior really supported the words. And it's nice again to basically dismantle it and put it back together. Like, what is this made of? What is tying all this together? What is What is it that makes this attraction happen? What is it that makes this pull or this gravity happen? And a lot of us struggle to answer the questions, but it can at least be somewhat illuminating to ask them here. Because what you'll notice when you ask yourself these questions is that something is off, usually, when you have to ask these questions. Like something is, and when you take something apart, it's usually because something's missing or you don't understand what's going on. You're looking for something in the drawer, so you have to take everything out of it in order to find it. If you weren't looking for something in the drawer, you wouldn't even be in the drawer. So it's kind of like, you can see, smoke comes as a result of fire, right? You have to take something apart as a result of something not being right, So also just note that for yourself. If you go to take apart any relationships, or if you go even to dismantle your household, notice that, there was something in the previous frameworks or reasoning or, in the previous construction of this that was off. And then here we're getting into the Virgo side of the axis and, the sixth house side of the axis, where it's how was this built? How did this run down over time? What caused that? And how can we, in the future generate better houses, better relationships, better infrastructure that's not so, flimsy. I will say there's also, and we'll talk more about this in the solar eclipse video in Virgo, there's a big question about lasting relationships, lasting infrastructures, and what those are made of, or how those are maintained, to last. And also what materials you ever would build with and which ones you never would build with. What types of people you would ever even consider these deeper and more intimate bonds with, and which types you never would. So that deduction process and that filtration process is a big question of this period of time too. And there is definitely a huge question about how resources, economics, that which we're storing up, that which we're spending, how the frequency of all of that is then affecting our relationships and, are people on the same page in areas like that? Because I'm seeing also a lot of people here. This is interesting with the Pisces energy, totally overlooking matters like that. Because they're oh, it doesn't matter what the material context of these relationships are. All that matters is how I feel about these people. It's very idealistic, right? So we can see a kind of negative Piscean trait come up during this time as well, which is basically submission to the ideal or submission to the feeling. Total submission, total subordination in some cases to how I feel, what I crave. If it makes me feel good, it's right for me. And this is going to be a very, very, very hard time for people who are unwilling to question what makes them feel good and why. Because, the person who is addicted to heroin at sometimes feels good in that. It does not make it good, The person who perhaps cashes out their entire retirement fund to go on a few month long, world vacation or something, that might feel good, but it's not the right move here. So we do have to consider the long term. We have to consider also what things say about us too, because there is also a reputation thing going on here. And there's very much also a historical, it's more than reputation. This is more like legacy actually than reputation. It's more like historical legacy. This is not 10th house Capricorn reputation. This is sometimes the things that you do here with this anaretic degree of the zodiac happening, you may be remembered for the very rest of your life or even in future generations for these choices. So some of us have to really get into formation here. Some of us have to really think about, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want to be understood? And not from a vain perspective, but from, I think, a perspective of self-actualization and from a perspective of what is the fabric and the grain and the sort of elemental cohesion of the life, life with a capital L, that I have selected, built, and adapted in my life. And we're going to be remembered for it. And also, if we're really struggling, say we've got a person that we have some kind of like unreasonable connection to that doesn't like flourish. It doesn't really go the direction we need it to go. If we're stuck in like, dreaming, continuing to visualize, never acting, we can very much become, I don't know what the right word is, like an Ophelia or there's a Piscean archetype there, right? That's like the dreamer or the person who, just could not quite materialize certain things that were inside too. And that may deserve a video of its own because I'm really feeling that here. And it's not always wrong, okay? We don't need to judge that. But one of the lessons I think of Saturn, right, being in Pisces is like, how do you bring some of this stuff to life? How do you materialize some of these dreams? And also, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be sometimes, it never kind of comes out exactly how we see it inside. It always, real life and real manifestation and real realization does not ever exactly mimic the internal vision. But I do think that there's a cruelty here as well to continuing to say no to or to continue vetoing our own dreams and visions. Small steps are better than no steps. Plans are better than a vacuum or a void. Okay? We don't have to rush either. But I find this to be kind of a large call here. Like it's like a large level signal, almost like the lighthouse or, the tornado siren or something like that. That's kind of like signaling like now is time to think about, what you're here to do and to get past some of the minutia, okay? And especially past some of these quote unquote good feelings that deviate us away from what really matters. So like this person that we have these feelings for and it never goes anywhere could be a deviation construct away from self-actualization, because it feels good. And what also feels good is self-actualization. But if you're feeling good from something that's not good for you, like an addiction or any of that stuff, you're getting your needs met from something that can never really be, congruent to what you need for your real life and to self-actualize. So careful about what you choose to give you a good feeling here. Okay, whether that's a substance, whether that's a person, whether that is anything that brings about pleasure, dopamine, things that make us feel good. We may need to pull back a little bit there. Again, Saturn in Pisces indicates a reduction of pleasure, always. So it's not perhaps meant to be the most pleasurable period of time or the most rewarding period of time in an obvious, good tasting way. It's incredible sometimes to eat food that's less sweet or to cut down on stimulants or to cut down on dating or anything like that, and watch how your sensitivity increases and watch how you become more cognizant of the nuances of life and how that tells you something about what you could be doing to better contribute to the things that really matter. And those people who choose that direction and that path, I feel during this time will be the most victorious. Now, I will tell you guys before we conclude this video that at the same time, there is a feeling of sadness and there is sometimes a feeling of breakups, disconnections, failures, okay? That is a part of Saturn in Pisces, and that is a part, I think, of this paradigm because we just simply cannot afford to be so all-consumed and, again, deviated away from what really matters. So that does mean that some things go here, some things change, some really, really, really long-running elements of our lives change, and this affects the psychological foundation of who we think we are, of our identity. And it's very grand. It's a very grand period of time. I would say one of the grandest astrological times from now until March 2026 that I've ever seen in my time as an astrologer. It's right up there with, the triple Capricorn conjunction of 2020, these major millennial types of transits. So I'm wishing you all luck. Do check the description box below where you can find all 12 zodiac signs for September 2025. I've talked about all of them for these transits and for this time. They're available for purchase on demand. They're available for a wonderful value with monthly subscription. It's very, very affordable. So I do request you all to go and check that out. Obviously, there are no ads over there. It's a great, great, wonderfully navigatable system that we have over there on Patreon. And I just enjoy it so much. And I get a lot of really nice feedback about it. So definitely check it out. There are even free trials. We'll be generous. Free trials. So if you've never tried it, you can try it for free. See if you like it. If you don't, you can always cancel. But I think that y'all will really like it. So beware. Beware, if you try a free trial, you probably won't want to leave. But do check that out. I will link it below in the description box, as well as a pinned comment. And there are other relevant links in the description box below. As I said, hit the subscribe button, like this video to get it out there, and do comment below and let me know what you thought about this reading for the lunar eclipse in Pisces of September 7th and the larger eclipse season of this general month. I hope you all do well, and I wish you luck in navigating the energy. Much love. Bye.